school or whether it's a small college or whether it's a university, ask the people that you are working with as affiliates. We were having a great lunch today with the Packers folks. If you come up with a crazy idea, they just might say yes. And if you can present an idea and an experience to an advertiser that they cannot do on their own, what's the likelihood of them saying no? They may still find a way because they may be negative, they weren't born on March 4th, but the odds are better that they will say yes. So think about that as you, and I know everyone's into renewal time now and we're thinking about sports season, but think about that, whether it's whether it's a legendary coach or it's a place or it's a player or something special that you can do that they can't do on their own. You're the radio and TV stations, you can do anything. We're Hollywood, right? Except for we're not Irving Azoff. All right, OTA sales training. I stole this from the National Football League. Do you know why OTAs are called OTAs? Do you know what OTAs are? Have you heard the reference with the Packers and OTAs? OTAs are organized team activities. They were invented because the contract that the players have with the National Football League says you can only have X number of mini camps. Doesn't say anything about OTAs. They're the same thing. So they have OTAs. I like the idea. So we do sales and content OTAs for our team. Again, off-sites with a purpose. We leverage our partnerships, whether it's our networks or whether it's our consultants or whether it's a speaker or whether it's a friend. Chris Lytle did our sales OTA, and we did it at the University of Illinois in the media room inside the new State Farm Center, which is the basketball arena. I know I'm going back to Illinois here, but why did we do that? Here was the title of our OTA. Sell big orders. Sell big orders. How many people like to have their salespeople sell bigger orders? Every hand in the room, thank you. Or have more affiliates. We have an affiliate person here. Sell big orders. So here's the idea. Do you know that State Farm Insurance spent $30 million to have the building named after them? Is that a big order? Yes. So I thought, well, let's go to the building and then let's get the guy who pitched it to have a presentation with our team about what it's like to sell big orders. And we did. It was cool. Do you know that our State Farm Insurance Agents Co-op were rated so that they could put the name on the building? So that was a downside to us. But OTA, so think about your training and staff trainings maybe a little differently. It's okay to steal a letter or steal an idea from the National Football League. Mom! How many people here love Mom? Everybody loves Mom. That's why we call this Mom. Because what Mom is a weekly accountability tool that we have for our salespeople and our general managers and our sales managers. Because you love Mom. So every Monday morning we have a Mom meeting. Everybody loves Mom. Maybe she has coffee cake. Maybe it's always fun to talk to Mom. It's not always fun to talk to Mom. MOM stands for Minimum Order Monthly. And one of the trackables that we use in our company is what is our average sale? What is the average piece of business that's on our radio station? Let's understand what that is. And then every Monday morning we track it up and we track it down. We look at a collective total, again, all of our 5 or 6 markets, we track how many people pitched an official, face-to-face, qualifying sales call. We track the total amount of revenue that was asked, both individually by the seller, by the market, and then by the team. And then we look at our closing numbers. And we do that together as a team every Monday morning, because everybody loves Mom. And you know what? Since we've been doing this, our numbers have gone up. It's providing a lift. We're paying attention to the right things. So from a sales management perspective, pay attention to the right things. This helps. But we call it Mom because everybody loves Mom. The last thing on this slide is selling hamburgers. And I mentioned my friend who's on my bus, on my personal board of directors team, because he's a good accountability partner. As someone who spends millions of dollars on radio and authorized the spending $1 million on radio and television, Rick also was the guy that would pop my bubble. Because I get a little excited about things, as you can tell. And so I would go to Rick, because he used to manage stores in Illinois. And I'd say, Rick, I've got a great idea. And I would roll this idea out to him, which I knew he would love. And he would reply back to me, will it sell hamburgers? And that was it, like 3 words. Will it sell hamburgers? And you know what? I really appreciated that mentality because it was a true look at his money on my radio stations and will it sell his product. And so what we have done from that mentality is we've stepped back, and in our company we use this term a lot, selling hamburgers. March 4th and Be Positive is going on my tombstone, but selling hamburgers is going to be right behind it. Because whether it is an auto dealer, whether it is a roofer, whether it is an attorney, whether it's State Farm Insurance, whatever it may be, we are all in the business of selling their products, right? Because if their products don't move, the equation does not work. It's funny, last week I was in Chicago making calls with our national rep, and I got into this selling hamburgers thing, and the look on the buyers and the planners, it was like a blank stare. What are you talking about? I know, this is going to be a shock. They're too far removed from Main Street. They're too far removed from the transaction at the cash register. But I used my selling hamburgers pitch on them, and I think they figured out that I was crazy. And I am. So those 4 things I give to you in terms of idea starters to take back to your markets and getting some thoughts. And here's your bonus. What's my birthday? March 4th. So if your birthday is March 4th, shouldn't you go out and have a jingle created for your own birthday? Shouldn't you leverage your birthday for the benefit of your radio stations? Does that make sense? It does make sense. So what we did 9 years ago is we created the March 4th moment. And I sold it to 4 of my good friends at $5,000 a piece. And then I went out and I hired, and I'll give him full credit, Jingle Bill Turpin from Advanced Concepts, does good work. And I said, Jingle Bill, if you sell jingles, your name's Bill, you get Jingle Bill, right? Our consultant on our programming stuff is Sam Milkman from Coleman. And so what do you call him? If your name is Sam Milkman, they're going to stick the in the middle of that, right? So I call him Sam the Milkman. Anyway, so Jingle Bill, I said, I want a jingle. And we're going to create these series of vignettes of good news messages in our community. So I need a donut. I need a March 4th donut. And I got one. Donut, donut, donut. When you focus on good news, you get more of it. It's what I've been saying this whole time. If your attitude is good, and your attitude is right, things will follow. So we've sold this 9 years, March 4th moments. People are sick of it, which means it's working. And then people fight. They throw elbows over who gets, who's going to be on next week's March 4th moment. And this runs in rotation, 24-hour rotation on the radio stations. Underwritten by 4 institutional businesses. So I think we built, $180,000 just on my birthday jingle since inception. And I'm pretty proud of that. I mentioned making deposits and planting seeds of the future. And as Nancy mentioned, we have this little program that we do in our radio stations in the Van Dyke's hometown that teaches the next generation of broadcasters. And I will tell you, they are out there. What you're seeing there is the Sports Media Camp for Kids. 24 years ago, an idea popped into my brain, and a partner of mine in our community who happens to be the mayor now. He wasn't then. But he was our play-by-play sports guy on our radio stations in Danville. And the idea was this. If we had something to do when we were 14 years old to be able to connect us to our passion of broadcasting, would we do it? And what would it look like? And so you know what we did? We built it. We built it. We built a week-long program that provides kids hands-on experience and being a broadcaster, being a writer, video producer, public speaker. We teach all these skills in this week-long camp. This is actually camp week. I gave up camp today to come up to speak with you. And I have 30 volunteers that are part of our team that work with the kids. This year we have kids from Connecticut, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, and Vermont, all participating in our program. Some of these kids, their grandparents live local, and they fly in just to be involved in this program. So what do they learn? They learn how to interview. I mean, we focus on the basics. What's the number one fear people have? Public speaking. So my thinking is, if we have these kids who have some interest in this, if I can work with them, and if our team can work with them, and we get them up in front of a podium and talk to a group of people like you, and we get rid of that fear at age 13 and 14 and 15, are we enriching a life? Absolutely. We bring in experts to teach the kids. One such expert was Eric Casilius, who, when he did the camp, he was on ESPN radio. ESPN's been a great partner of ours. And Eric, when I talked to him, he said, what do you want me to say? And I always say the same thing. I want you to share your experience, but I want you to leave the kids with an impactful message that you wished you heard when you were their age. He said, I got it. I got it, Mike. He said, are you aware, which means you're never aware when someone says that to you, are you aware that ESPN offers a 3-day program for all of their air staff and air talent, radio and TV, on one thing? No. I said, what is it? He said, 3 days intensive study on one topic: how to ask a question. And he said, I can boil it down into about 10 minutes. Whoa. He said, I'm going to do that for the kids. I said, well, I'm going to record you. And I did, and ever since then we've used his same tape. Now, this is back when Mark Sanchez was picked up by the Jets, so you football fans know it's been some time ago, because we just played the tape this week. But in it, he talks about the value of an open-ended question. So instead of asking a question that will get a yes or no answer, you ask a question that will require people to think and to give you more information. And he does it in such a way that kids are writing this down. Awesome. Our questions from our kids are better than some of our professionals. I need to put our professionals through the sports media camp. Earlier this week, the play-by-play sports guy of Duke basketball, perhaps you've heard of Duke, their radio play-by-play guy did a half an hour with our kids this week. David Shoemate is his name. Great young man, 36 years old. Here's what David told him. The most important thing that you can do is prepare, and the second most important thing that you can do is practice. Prepare and practice. Preps and reps. Preps and reps. Some young man asked them a question. Oh, by the way, we require our kids to ask questions of our guests as if they were in a press conference. Now, keep in mind, some of our kids are 13 and 14 years old, so they'll say, Bobby Smith, 14, 8th grade, Franklin Middle School. Because I want the people who are hearing them to know who they're talking to. I also want the young people to understand the respect that goes into this process. So as a follow-up question to Mr. Shoemate, the voice of the Duke Blue Devils, how much time do you prepare? He said, I have a formula. It's 8 to 1. 8 to 1. 8 hours for every 1 hour I'm on the air. He said, I have the greatest radio job in all of college basketball. I am the voice of Duke basketball. I'm 36 years old. I respect it. It requires me to practice and to prepare. 8 to 1. I've often heard of 3 to 1 or 4 to 1. It's the first time I've ever heard of 8 to 1. He went to Appalachian State University, which is not a small school, but it's in a small place in central North Carolina. Some of you football fans will know that Appy State did what?
Michigan.
They beat Michigan. It was, go back to my slide, David beating Goliath. It truly was. It was the greatest upset in the history of college football. A little school, one division down, beat the winningest college in all of football. So, one of our young sports media camp members asked him what he remembered about that game. And he said, it changed my life. If it wasn't for that game, I wouldn't be talking to you today. So, of course, one of the questions that, or one of the things that Eric Casillas teaches the kids is to ask the next question, and one word will do it, and it's
Why?
Why? Very good. You can come. You can. Why? And so he said, because jobs in our business are hard. They're hard to find. When you get one, you need to respect it. You need to work really hard. You need to practice and prepare. And he said, I didn't. I was egotistical. I came out of college and I thought I was so good, there were jobs I wouldn't take. And so because of that attitude, the day that Appalachia State beat Michigan, David Shoemate, the voice of the Duke Blue Devils, was running a restaurant. He wasn't even in broadcasting. Because he was too good to take some of the jobs that were available. He's telling our kids this. He said, when Appy beat Michigan, I realized my ass needed to get back to broadcasting. Even at $50 a game, I'm going to make it work. I'm in the wrong place. And so he did, and he told the kids about his path, his journey. And today, he's the voice of Duke University basketball and football. Pretty cool. But to the kids, preparation and practice. Now, for Wisconsin fans, you'll appreciate this. This is a classroom shot of our kids practicing play-by-play. Now, when our students are practicing play-by-play, we're doing this in June. We're at a community college. We use their insurance, thank you. And what we do is we put up on big video screens videos of games, and we teach the kids to describe what they see for the audience that wouldn't normally be able to see it. So on the screen on the left, it's kind of hard to tell, but that's the Duke Wisconsin Final Four National Championship game at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. I was there that night. It was 90% red and 10% blue. And the Saturday before, I cheered like crazy for Wisconsin because you beat Kentucky. I loved it. It was awesome. Big Frank in the middle. It was great. Anyway, so we put that game back up on the screen, and our kids were actually doing the play-by-play. And what we do is we break down into groups. We have an adult or an assistant coach. And an assistant coach is a kid that came through our program, graduated from high school, and is in college. They come back and they work as an assistant coach, and then we have all the tables set up, and the assistant coach or a pro will work with our kids as they practice their play-by-play. So you get a little example of what goes on there. One of the things we're also proud of is that we've done field trips before with our kids in going to camp. One such field trip we took our kids to St. Louis, and the St. Louis Cardinals opened up the doors of Busch Stadium to our kids in the morning. In the afternoon, then the St. Louis Rams provided an opportunity for our kids in the afternoon. The Cardinals were great. They took the kids in. We had 30 kids and parents and chaperones. Showed them the World Championship trophies. As a Cub fan, that's a little hard, but easier now, but a little hard. They were great. Broadcast booth. Took all of our kids into Mr. DeWitt's personal box, the owner of the Cardinals. They then took our kids on the field into the dugout, and they got their team photos in the Cardinal dugout. Very cool. Members of the broadcast staff, members of the media were there to talk to our kids. We then went in the visitors clubhouse, and if you've ever been in a major league clubhouse, that is like rare air. And the kids had a wonderful time. We then loaded up in the bus and we went up to the Rams Park, where the Rams, their headquarters are on the north side of St. Louis. So the bus pulls in. This is where it gets interesting. The bus pulls in, door opens up, and who is our tour guide? Former NFL Pro Bowl defensive lineman Leroy Glover. He's a team, like a community liaison for the team. 6'2", 300 pounds. and can still play. He gets on the bus and he says, all right, kids, my name is Leroy Glover. I'll be your tour guide. I need you to keep your mouths closed and your ears open and follow me. Okay, it wasn't a suggestion. So Leroy Glover, our kids followed him off the bus, toured through went by the Super Bowl trophy, toured through the facility for the Rams, took us into the media center where members of the Rams media worked with our kids, but not as if they were members of the media. They actually flipped the script. They worked with the kids as if they were players, to show to the kids how hard it is actually to be interviewed, let alone do the interview. It was awesome. But they also tricked the kids. They got, Sally, they say something bad about Bobby by the questions that they ask. And it was, be careful, when you're a member of the media, you have a special responsibility. Be careful how you use it. But then we ended up in the indoor practice facility. Does anyone know what a gasser is? A gasser. A gasser in the National Football League is this. You line up on one sideline, and you run over to the other sideline, then you run back, then you run over, then you run back, then you run over, and then you come back. So that's 6. It's 50 yards each. And that's 1 rep. You do 6 reps, and then you rest, and then you do them again. So Leroy Glover is telling our kids about being in shape, preparation, and practice, right? These are recurring themes all these years. So the kids line up. The adults, we assume a position on the sideline to make sure everything is okay. All right, everything needs to be in order. I videoed it. Want to make sure we had some, documentation. Didn't participate is what I'm saying. And the kids ran over once and came back with Leroy Glover yelling, cheering them on. It was awesome. The next day, one of our young men shows up in a cast.
Oh.
Liam White, great kid, soccer player. 3-year veteran of our program, shows up in a cast. I said, Liam, is your leg broken? See, because I picked up on that in my years of covering sports. Is your leg broken? He said, yes, Mike, it's broken. You were running gassers yesterday. He said, yeah, I know. I said, did you break your leg running gassers? He goes, no, I broke it the day before. I said, you ran on a broken leg? Why didn't you say something? And he looked at me like I was stupid. And he said, do you think I'm going to tell Leroy Glover I'm not going to run? He said, so I ran on a broken leg. So parents, it's okay if you want to send your kids to our summer program, and we'll teach your kids, and they're in good shape. In the 24 years since we've been doing the program, we've trained over 300 young people, many who are in the business today. Every single one is using a skill that we talk to them about. Every single one. Very proud that 2 weeks ago at the Illinois Press Association, which is the newspaper awards, one of our former campers got a first place in the state in a print category, and we teach the kids writing techniques and skills as well. And I was so proud of him. So proud of him. Sent him a note, told him my buttons were busting. It will not be his last. Oh, by the way, he's a junior in college. And it wasn't a youth, it was a regular category. So I'm very proud of those kids. And as Julie knows, we follow a lot of them. But it's our way of seeding the next generation. So I go back to that night in that gymnasium. That 8-year-old boy sitting there in his dad's gymnasium watching a basketball game and looking up and seeing those 2 broadcasters. What impact did that have on me and my life and those around me? I mean, it changed my life. If David Shoemate got the wake-up call because he was managing a restaurant instead of pursuing his dream and got his ass off the couch and back in the game, that little 8-year-old boy with the on-air light coming on, it's been a blessing. And yeah, we've had a few trials and tribulations, and we've done some things that we never thought we would do or things we had to do. But all of you here have a passion for this industry of radio and or television, otherwise you wouldn't be here today. You wouldn't have been in it as long as you are. You wouldn't be an example for others to follow. Our summer media camp is just one little example of how we're trying to help seed for the next kid who's too scared to be an astronaut, and too smart to be a broadcaster. So I will tell you that tomorrow our family will be celebrating a graduation. These are our 3 nieces. They live in Kaukauna, Wisconsin. My brother and my sister-in-law in the year 2000 went to Africa on a mission trip. When they came home, Sarah, in the middle, was with them. Now, I will tell you that international adoption is a very, very, very difficult thing. It is even more difficult when you go and you don't plan to do it. So going in reverse is really difficult. But Sarah has been in the United States now for 17 years. She is going to the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse to study sports management. She has 2 state championship rings as a manager of the Kaukauna basketball team, who just won the 4A state championship, I do believe, in Wisconsin. Her 2 little sisters are from Ethiopia. In the red dress is Konjit, and in the stripes is Zernesh. And Konjit and Zernesh, they're all blessings to us, I will tell you. All American kids. Sarah is smart as a tack. Konjit is a terrific artist, and she can run like a gazelle. The cross-country coach at Kaukauna couldn't wait for her to get to high school this fall. And Z, she'll be on Broadway someday. She's a ham. But our niece Sarah graduated from Kaukauna, and her big graduation party and festivities is tomorrow night and on Saturday. So you actually gave us another excuse to get up to see our family. So I want to leave you with another quote from one of my favorite football coaches. When all is said and done, more is said than done. I hope that there has been just one thing that you have heard today that we've shared from our story and our journey that might impact you, impact your communities, impact an advertiser, impact a family member. Just one thing that I hope that you remember tomorrow from our talk today. If you'd like to get in contact with me, Mike Hulvey at newhoffmedia.com. Michael or Mike, either one works. Always happy to exchange ideas and thoughts. So I really appreciate the invitation. Some of my good buddies here from the International Broadcasters Idea Bank. I appreciate the warm welcome in Wisconsin. And thank you for letting us share a little piece of a broadcaster's journey. Thank you.